Hi, my name's Ethan Lawrence.
This is Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage.
Hi, I'm Scotty Wartooth.
Hi, my name's Sean Smith.
Hi, my name is Desha Kiva.
This is Ryan McCombs from the band Soil.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Raging Cajun Lash LaRue.
Hi, I'm Xander Berkeley, and I have great honor and pleasure to be doing the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And these right here are the Chronicles of Xander Berkeley. It is I, Jamie, and joining me as always this week, as always, this handsome fella right here.
Right fucking here. Hi guys, it's Tom. Happy birthday, Jamie.
Hit it! Ladies and gentlemen, this week we bring you an incredibly talented guest, a wonderful actor who has over 250 acting credits on IMDb. He has had roles in iconic projects such as T2, The Walking Dead, and so many more. Ladies and gents, this is the second time we've had a former district director of the CTU from 24 on this show, let me tell you. So put your hands together for a man who is possibly rivaling Sean Bean for the amount of on-screen deaths, because we are bringing you the Chronicles of Xander Berkeley.
A pleasure.
No, you, all of you. I believe Sean Bean. We started this out. I think you guys said that the last time, and I love Sean. I only got to work with. I never got to do a scene with him, but we were both in North Country, and it was a great group of actors. We had a great table reading up there in Minnesota, and I didn't broach the subject then, but I think that it was already in the air many years ago. And I don't know, does Sean Bean have a death reel on YouTube set to the William Tell Overture the way I do?
Oh, well, he might have a death reel, but I bet it ain't got that song on it. So who cares?
In Xander Berkeley death reel on YouTube, and there you go. It's a lot of them. It's not all of them, but it's a lot of them, and then we could count them. And then, come on, Sean, let's see what you got.
We need to do a film together where you both just kill each other at the same time. Yeah. It'd be great.
A duel where we both fucking drop like a bag of potatoes. Yeah. And then you just pan in on both of them.
But then I'd love to see who would actually win, though. Because obviously, if you had it at a point where only one of you went, but nobody knew who it was going to be,
he'd win, even though he's played a lot of bad guys. He's played, I think, more heroic good guys, and so all the the algorithms would lead towards would lend one to believe that he's gonna win. But maybe it would be a surprise. It might be a dark horse.
Oh.
But I'm wiry.
I mean, I'm Team Berkeley all the way, so
absolutely.
Yeah. Xander, how's your personal Sunday been? Have you had a good day?
I did a couple of mad things yesterday. I worked on I do these big wooden sculptures, and I worked on one outside, and I was just obsessing on the gradation of sandpaper from coarse to fine. It's a final sort of stage. I'm working on a piece. And I didn't realize how much birch sawdust I was inhaling over the course of the day. But my Sunday has involved a sort of interesting coughing experience. And we're on this bay, Casco Bay here in the Gulf of Maine. And I guess it's the Gulf of Maine anyway. Casco Bay leads out into the great Atlantic Ocean, and I looking right across and, hi guys. You're right over there. But the tide comes in and the tide goes out, as tides are inclined to do. And there's a couple of trees that have fallen, as also, and as the bigger they get, the harder they fall. And into the cove down at the end, as the water winds around into the final inlet of the bay there. And it's bugged me for 6 years since we've been here. Keep looking at it because it's a little bit Halloweenish and haunted with trees, with branches and the seaweed that when the tide comes in and leaves it up, and it's not quite right. It needs more art direction. It could be a really good Halloween spot, but then overall on a daily basis, do you really want to be freaked out by your bog, by your not a bog? I don't use it in that way. It's like a peat bog. It's just so like, and literally going back in there with a chainsaw, scuttling down the sheer face rocks, leaving everything but, my swim trunks up on the thing and going down with this big chainsaw. And then I have to step out into it's like quicksand, but I was determined to do it. And there's shells in there and they're slicing you up and stuff. And then, I cut off all the branches that I could. And at 3 days worth, I got the rope caught up in there at one point. It was dramatic, and I turned it off and got out, and then I just hauled all the wood and sort of did a little Andy Goldsworthy sort of art piece of getting all of these cool bone white driftwood branches as though they were holding up the massive rocks. And that's how I spent the day yesterday, and I won't talk any more about that. But my God, today I always forget, wow, fucking old. I've always attacked things with like a reckless abandon. And now I'm kind of like, okay. Oh, yeah. I did a lot yesterday. A lot of things I did in a long time.
A nice quiet weekend for you then, sir.
But I'm here, got it. My mother lived to 102, and every time I call her, I'd say, "So, mother, how are you?" And she goes, "Well, honey," she was from Texas originally. "As you know, I'm deaf as a post. I'm blind as a bat, and I'm weak as a kitten. But I'm still here." In fact, I can't seem to find a damn thing wrong with me. I don't know how the hell I'm going to get out of here. And I'm really, yes. To go say to the old. Now let's jump into your incisive interview.
Yes. So, what we like to do at the start of these is take it right back to the beginning of yourself, the days of young Master Berkeley. What did you want to be when you were growing up? Has it always been acting for you, or was it, I don't know, train driver, space pilot, whatever it might be?
Well, I was going to be a Major League Baseball player for a pretty solid part of my early youth. But it was the era of long hair, and my parents were artistically inclined and didn't make me cut my hair. And so it was always like, starting with a name that starts with an X, which in New Jersey, no, we're going to call you Alex. I said, yeah, but my friends, my family, everybody I know calls me Xander, and I don't like Alex. And they go, we don't start names with X around here. And then the long hair, it was like communist to them. They thought, it was a weird time, and the Cuban Missile Crisis was on, and when right the year I started school, and then the era of hiding under the desk as though that's going to save you from the mushroom cloud. Really. But yeah, and then in sports, I realized I wasn't going to be around my kind of people at that time anyway, and so I left sports, and I came back to what had been a first love even before baseball, which was we didn't have a lot of dough, but my mom could sew, and she went on to teach school once I got into school. But for those years before I started school, we lived on this amazing property, and she made costumes for me to go out into the woods, and like, for me, it was a transportative experience to just time travel, and because it was like Robin Hood or Dr. Dolittle or what all these characters, and I felt like I was suddenly older, and I was in another place, and I was another person, and it just sparked my imagination. It was like all the stories you read and stuff like that when you're a kid. It just was fueling actively my imagination, and I got to play Thomas Jefferson in third grade in a play. My mom helped me have the ruffled sleeves, and I rocked that Thomas Jefferson costume. I felt like I was 6'3", and then I did plays in grade school along with, but it was that summer that I left sports and felt like most lost. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I turned my back on it. I wasn't going to look back. And then a new friend invited me to come and build sets in this beautiful little theater in the wild out there, where many really interesting offshoots of great experimental theater group had use that as their base. And I kind of got, kidnapped into the circus, and I joined up that troupe, and then I did school plays. But this troupe was really formative throughout high school for me, working on experimental theater and different plays, Lorca, really kind of great classics. And then I just started to pursue. I went to college, but I was really actively sort of pursuing theater, and I went to school in Massachusetts at Hampshire College. It was a progressive brainchild of Smith, Mount Holyoke, UMass, and Amherst, which are these New England schools that were all within a very close radius of each other, and you could take a shuttle to anyone, and you could actually take classes or do plays at anyone. So I did for the first 2 years solidly, working with graduate programs and stuff. Some amazing directors were brought in. And my father saw me in a play, Twelfth Night. I played Malvolio at 18, and at Mount Holyoke, kind of rhyme. But they had an amazing stage with hydraulics and everything. And my parents came, and we had our first beer at the Lord Jeff together, and he just said to me, sort of sotto voce, this was not a guy that handed out compliments easily. So it was like life altering when he said, I saw a presence that I could invest in. I heard a voice that I wanted to listen to. It was different than yours. It was a completely different character. It had comic timing, and I fully realized sort of, I just can't imagine what else you'd need to make a go at this other than what I saw tonight. So if you want to stay here and get a degree, or if you want to go to London, or if you want to go to New York, I back you all the way. And that was just like, what? That's the only degree I ever needed right there. And I would credit that more than, plus when I was staging fights in the front yard with a best friend, like cork and ketchup, breakaway sticks, and on a curb, and making cars squeal to a stop. He was watching, and he's like, "That's not a good idea. You don't want to do that again. Cars, accidents, and liability." But it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. And my next birthday, he gave me a serious professional makeup kit with Richard Corson's book on stage makeup. So awesome. He'd always given me art supplies. So this was like another dimension. He was an artist. He became head of the art department for a publishing company, but he was always an artist. And so like that was the beginning. And to me, finding a character going in when I was doing a play and finding the look of the character as much as the costume were like my origins of transformation, and believing that just whatever the Stanislavski imaginary, if I were that person, suddenly clicked into place for me. And the idea also from the theater of transformation and being a different character each time, more than trying to be recognizable or identifiable to an audience, which is sabotage for a typical career, that was a celebrity-oriented career in Hollywood. People don't do that because they want a known commodity, and they want to know, and so you're building a name and recognition. And I was always sabotaging that by just trying to change how I looked as much as I could, and so that the audience would believe that character was just part of that story, part of the fabric of that story. And that, to me, I sort of had a hunch that was going to build in a longevity and maintain an efficacy that would otherwise be lost if you just did a carbon copy of everything you did before each time out.
To me, that shows how much you love acting and the performance and everything like that. It's not an ego thing of, I'm an actor. It's no, the story, the character, that's what matters. And I think that's what makes you stand out. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I've told aspects of that story, but thank you for indulging me in the whole cloth there.
I love the fact you, like you're saying, how your dad was so encouraging as well, because you talk to different people who get into the world of the arts and they're like, no, go get a real job. So for your dad to turn around and go, no, you're good, go do this.
God, I directed a play a long time ago, and this guy was so fucking funny, a Jewish friend of mine, and he would always say, like with his parents, he was like, Paul, be a doctor, Paul. He's going, I want to be an actor, Mom. I want to be an actor. But then, like, more time would pass. He'd still be acting, doing plays. Paul, be a lawyer. Be a lawyer, Paul. And it's like, I don't want to be. I want to be an actor, Mom. And then finally, they, oh, for God's sakes, Paul, at least be a teacher. It always killed me. It's like the bottom line. And that's, the Jewish version, but if you could do the Italian version. I know from my Italian, like, what are you talking about, you fucking acting? Get out of here, you fucking pussy. Get a real fucking job, like I did. There's so many of those guys out there. But my generation was raised by guys that, even if they were academics, they saw academia as a more legitimate and reliable existence. And it really is no less reliable an existence. And my father, as he was in publishing, felt obliged to show me a couple of pie charts before I went from when I was being brought out at 22 from it with an agent that sold me to play, bringing me out to LA for the first time. And he said, I feel compelled to show you that this pie is all the people who want to be in the Screen Actors Guild. And this little wedge, that's how many of them are in there. Oh, now there's this other pie chart. These are all the people that are actually in the Screen Actors Guild. And see that other little slice? Those are the ones that actually make a living at it. So it's not, for the meek of heart. And the odds are so stacked against you. But I kind of approached it from sort of mathematical point of view, knowing what I just told, the story I told before, that if I wasn't going to grab to the carrot that everybody else was grabbing for, and I was going to go for under the radar, and in fact, I assessed right off the bat, wait a minute, every TV show out there, I've got all the stage training, but I don't have any film training. And every TV show out there has a bad guy every week, and they're all different. And I can play bad guys. I could, change the way I look, and I did the makeup. I would go in looking fucked up or whatever. They all thought I was a psycho. And for many years, they were like, "Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but he shows up and he treats people well, and I think you're okay." Because they would say, as opposed to the theater and I am an actor. Now I'm going to become this other person in front of your very eyes. They always said, just, you got to walk in the office with it. And so, like, I would. And, sometimes it's just a little strange, a little freaky. I remember early Psycho auditions, and there were all the other Psycho guys. And they'd all be sitting in the room, all sit together. And everybody's like, all trying to psych each other out. I'm badder and more twisted than you. I sort of saved it until I walked in the room, and then I would just sort of like be strange and just, would you want me to sit over here? Just sort of like be odd. And then they were willing to believe you were a little different. And it did put me in a dark and dank corner of scuzzballs. But I was willing to sacrifice my vanity because everybody else was trying to get prettier. And I thought there was a certain freedom because I remember a couple of times on stage playing the beautiful young boy. And I was like, that is so uncomfortable. What if somebody's out there thinking, I don't think so. Maybe, but not for me. So to make yourself like when everybody else is in the makeup trailer getting all prettied up, I'd be in there with plucking my teeth up and breaking capillaries and my little German makeup kit. And then I went on to become really good friends with a lot of the top makeup artists that really got off on the fact that I liked it so much, and they taught me and still do. And I do still fucking love it like a kid, playing make-believe and doing, artwork like kids do in kindergarten.
That's phenomenal.
It is unbelievable. I mean, How did you actually transition from theatre to acting? Because I don't. Why did you not pursue the theatre as a full-time thing, or was that not the end game?
Well, you know, a couple of things. I didn't love going to the theater. I had to be honest with myself. I was sometimes really uncomfortable in the theater, having to sit still and see performances that I wasn't wild about. And then I'd a lot of times have to go and chat them up afterwards and give up. That was amazing. Wow, you really put it out there, man. That was so interesting. So, I mean, yeah. It's crazy, man. And you just like that awkwardness, but also that creaking of the seat. And if you like next to you and go, this is dreadful, right? Somebody might see you through the curtain. And in the movie theaters, ever since a little kid, going to the movies was like transported in the same way that my imagination's been, just by virtue of a costume or whatever. And the intimacy of performance on film and the degree to which you can be 100% honest and real as different characters, as opposed to, volume, because our prescription audience, our subscription audience are on prescription drugs, and a lot of them are blue-haired, deaf people. And so we'd like a little projection. Really? So I'm talking to the person next to me like this? Okay. All right. If you say so. Doesn't feel right, but yeah. All right. And then, so part of your question, I think, I'm going to ask your questions for you, as well as just talk nonstop, is the idea that there is a real transition because you got to hide. I made a vow to myself to hide my stagecraft and make it invisible, because I'd seen coming from the theater, you see the guys that come from New York, and a lot of times they will use the actor voice, and some people made a career. But Robert Wagner made a whole career of it. I remember, heart to heart, and twisted like, you slay me like sheep. Well, you really couldn't. You started that in the theater, didn't you, with that basso profundo? But it would work for some people, but for the most part, it always seemed, unless you're playing a lawyer, a trial lawyer, or a college professor who have stagecraft because they have to hold rapt an audience's attention, either the jury or classroom. So they have skills of disciplined skills to hold an audience's attention, but most people, don't. And so you have to find the real behavior, and that tapped into my real interest in anthropology, sociology, psychology, and all those things of just what makes each character tick, and how does their ticking help to tell that story? And that just continues to be infinitely interesting to me, because there's no two people that are exactly alike, and everybody has their own influences. So you get maybe a little bit more intuitive, instinctive, or sloppy as you get older. But really, in the beginning, the discipline of really doing research and writing a biography of who the character was, and walking around going to places where you might run into people like that. Go hang out. I'll let you ask more questions, but yeah.
We love the fact that you talk, Xander. Don't worry. Everyone listens to us chat shit all the time, so it's good that you like to. I love it.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we will talk about some very obvious roles you portray, but please indulge me. There's two roles you've been in, which I want to know a bit more about for myself. First of them is your role as Barry Snacks in Sid and Nancy. I fucking love that film. Were you a fan of the Sex Pistols and Sid going in, or was it just?
I'm like dead center of that generation. And I came into New York. I left school early. I started college early, and I left it early. So I was, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old in New York City when all that was going down at CBGB's. But I just remember sort of like, again, just being an observer. And I remember walking through like different parts. I had older friends through my sister that was her mascot. They'd get me into Studio 54 when I was, I think, probably even underage and stuff. And get into just walking around different parts of the city and seeing the scene. And it just like disco felt. And you go through the village, and there was a lot of rough trade and stuff like that. I went to an acting school down there, and that was really dark, scary at the time. For a country boy from New Jersey. Well, okay, I'm gonna walk quickly. Sorry. And then going to CBGB's, and they'd be like hurling beer bottles up on the stage, and people like had the black eye makeup and safety pins, sometimes through their face, sometimes in all their clothes. And it was fascinating to me. And there's always something primal to punk rock music that is captivating. And it was a great slate cleaner from the sort of bougie, overproduced music of the early 70s, and a return to British Invasion sort of simplicity, three-chord driving without all the crap on top. And I was fascinated more than a fan. I got to work with Joe Strummer, who worked on the music for Sid and Nancy, and I loved The Clash. And I got to know Pogues, who also did music for Sid and Nancy, and I love the fucking Pogues. And so that's those variations on punk rock for me were Elvis Costello was also in that movie after Sid and Nancy, Straight to Hell. But I'll tell the Sid and Nancy story quickly first, because I'd gone to live in the UK and in France, and I started doing TV in California, and it was like, oh my God, this is not what I prepared myself to do. They were like coked up race car drivers that were directing TV episodes where you're playing a German terrorist, and they just want to see them. They're good. They're hired because they've got a yacht and they can flip cars 3 times, and they're giving you direction like, it says here you don't understand your girlfriend, the Middle Eastern terrorist that I was saying. Why don't you tilt your head and squint? And I said, because I'm a German terrorist. I don't think I'd do that. That will sell it, I think. And he's like, yeah, just tilt your head and squint. Yeah, dogs do that when they don't understand. It's not going to happen. You're not gonna be here. I know you can probably kill me, but so I kind of said, "Oh, I better back out of this for a while." And I went and I thought I was just going for a palate cleanser because I'd never been to Europe and I was always wanting to go. And I just everywhere I went, I got offered amazing places to stay just by circumstance, where I could squat or house sit and stuff for people. And it was going almost a year. And when I came back, it was a great opportunity because TV was really pretty terrible in the 80s. I had no idea those shows that I was going to learn how to act with film cameras would still be around to haunt me in 2024. The shame. But it was fun. Incredible Hulk, Heart to Heart, bad pop culture TV. A lot of the ones that are really terrible don't exist anymore. You can't find. But so it was a good opportunity to learn about cameras and get familiar with them. But I wanted to get away from crapola. And when I came back, I just decided to myself only do film acting, just what it's like. And I got a smaller apartment because you start to get a little bit of money. You think, hey, this is nice. And when I came back, living in tiny little places over there and really sort of getting a little monk cell and just saying, I'm going to wait. And then that was the first audition that came up and I went, this one. I'm going to go for this one and I'm going to fucking get it. Because I lived in New York and I knew those guys, urchins. I'd followed around Lower East Side and just sort of, been a voyeur, an observer of strange behavior in New York. And so I even had the friends that used to bring me to Studio 54. There were all these Italian guys with both arrows, and it's just like they did deal marijuana and I think later cocaine. And I would always wonder, why am I there before we're going out to? I thought we were going to Studio 54. Why are these people? Like major people would come in, like they sold pot to like rock stars and stuff. And so I was observing through Ernie Baldero, bless his soul, is long gone, just how he was like a court jester when they would come in, it's like, yo, 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 that'd be so crazy. And you get down and he would like, do whatever it was. And like, just, he was like this social lubricant that got everybody comfortable. And I could never do cocaine. I was like, look, do I look like a guy who needs cocaine? Seriously, it will kill him. And, but I would observe these people doing just the whole thing. And so I used Ernie and his cousin Jackie in terms of the act, the behavior, the character. And I did do the makeup. I went into the audition. Vicki Thomas was the casting director. We're still friends to this day. And back in 1984 or 5, so it was 84, you could get I got a bottle of beer and a pack of cigarettes in the little store across the street. I had the beer in a brown paper bag and a cigarette. I'd already done my makeup, like breaking capillaries I no longer have to break. Time has ravaged me, but clean again. And so I took the cigarette with the smoke over my eyes and I sort of walked up into the audition. Yo, and I know you, and oh yes, she said you can sit there, and then she had a resume picture of me. She says, you look so different from your resume picture. Geeky, squeaky, clean. Like, what? How did you get that picture? Oh my God, all the pictures that they submitted, that one for this role. I have cool shots, But anyway, so I just remember winging it and saying, yeah, well, it's nice to not have to get all spruced up for an audition, you know what I mean? Looking in office back then. And she's like, oh, okay. We just start reading. And then she encouraged, welcomed improvisation in certain parts and sent it off to London. And I got the part. And I show up in New York and I've told this story before. It's just, I don't mean to put Alex down, but it's just so classic. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. But he was very enamored of the whole scene. And when I showed up as myself, clean of makeup, and the film of soot that I powdered to seal my makeup with egg whites in my hair and all the rest of it, when I went into the audition and the tape that he hired me from, he just sees me and goes, oh, you're so clean. I thought we had miraculously discovered a junkie who could act naturally in front of the camera. Oh, well, I couldn't in clear conscience not have hired you for the part, but now because you did add some ad libs that I incorporated into the script. So, well, good enough, fair enough. Toddled off. Yeah, very much. So I went back to the Marriott Hotel and I got my gear on and just waited in line at the front desk. And I said, can you not let the maid clean my room for the next week? Because I kind of just doing a thing and I just kind of want to be left alone. Yeah, and I looked rough and filthy, and it's like, oh, this is a nice place. And I went to the set and I went to the hair and makeup trailer because it was really going starting establishing the character. And I said to these guys, I said, look, you can clean this all off if you want, but I just had to show you what got me the part and what was clearly a tremendous disappointment to the director yesterday when I didn't end up looking like this when we met. And then they're like, no, it's not bad. It's not bad. You know, we just did win the Academy Award for Greystoke last year, but it's not bad. We'll give you some tips. And so that began my education in film makeup. There are little certain adjustments, color-wise and tone-wise and other stuff, but I still do it to this day. I still fucking love it. And like I said, like Billy Corso has won Academy Awards, and William Corso, but he's one of my besties, and several others that are just the high level makeup artists and FX people. That's the path I probably, if I hadn't gotten consistent work as an actor, I would have done that because I love it. But yeah, that was Sid and Nancy. And the last shots, well, just obviously working with Gary and Chloe. They had two very different approaches and had sort of started to, and they had both started to with Alex. And what I learned from being around Ernie, he could just take all the tension out of a room just with his personality. And that wasn't necessarily entirely the part of that character that I played, because I was definitely more of an agitator, you know, but that was how I performed with them. Once I decided I'm going to stay in character all the time, I'm going to keep this look going to indulge the director's imagination. And they were kind of in their characters. They'd started out, they shot it in chronological sequence, so they had really dropped down into a pretty dark place, authentically. And, you know, I'd been reading Burroughs' book, Junkie, where he spells out that, and the way the scenes were written, the drug dealer, that Sid and Nancy were sort of bossing him around, and Burroughs spelled it flat out: nobody has control over their drug dealer. If they're a junkie, the drug dealer has control over that. And they were like, yes, that. And Alex says, all right, fair enough. So suppose we throw this out and just improvise, bearing in mind that we need these gear points to be hit in order to get to the conclusion, but what might you say otherwise? So we started to take the script that worked, and we just started to improvise. And those scenes were crafted that way, and the great luxury directors rarely take advantage of or go out of their way to make a part of the process is to have a chronological sequence so that as you're building the characters, they can take on more nuance and more authenticity and not be beholden to things that were conceived in a writer's mind before seeing the actors bring it to life. And our interactions together was just with Roger Deakins, to me, the greatest cinematographer up there in the big leagues. And he was shooting it. So to have him there on the ground, just doing the scene, and it was so great, like the way he framed the shot in one scene where he like cut my head off, and I'm just sort of mopping around to see if there's, you know, stuff on surfaces that I might want, and pushing them down so because they're already down. And yeah, everything about that was Alex. He's an amazing, brilliant guy, but he was like the young auteur. There's a quote of his: "I am the young auteur who can do no wrong." And hubris. I'm looking for the fall, buddy. Sometimes. So I am the ornament on top of the Christmas tree. I remember thinking, yeah, no, you're a talented guy. You're brilliant. There's no question about that. But ornament? Okay. I think the Christmas tree is waving. And so the last thing Alex said to me, and I say this with great love, you know, our birthdays are like a year, but a day apart. So it's like almost like family when I think about my relationship. I did 4 movies with him. And Gary never wanted to do another movie. No, that was it. That was it. But I, you know, I wanted to do movies with both of them, and I wanted them to get along while we were doing this one. And that was something that was really kind of cool about that character, is that I could get that with everybody behind the scenes, because you know, maybe I was able to access better marijuana in New York City than anybody else in the crew, and so I made that part of the character. It's like, you know, filthy illegal truths from the past coming. But so last shot of the movie for me, Alex leaned down and said, "Get your shot. We're going to Nicaragua."
What?
And I was like, "Ain't there a war going on there?" He said, "Precisely." Out of that. And
Okay.
he had written, he had already had written, and Rudy Wurlitz, who wrote it, one of the guys who wrote for Peck and Paw, brilliant writer. A film set in the 1850s, Ed Harrison starring in it, but it was about this guy, William Walker, who was a real character in history that went down to Nicaragua. And it was an echoing refrain of Yankee imperialism. He went down, and Alex is extremely political, a big anarchist, and wanted to support the Sandinistas, and he did. And sometime, I think pretty clearly to his own career's disadvantage, because, this is a great story, an English story, and I hope everybody knows I'm not talking shit about him, because Alec talks shit about everybody too. So fuck. We all love each other, I think, deep down. And to me, it's sad that he didn't keep making brilliant movies, but he did sabotage, I think. I remember when he called me to Santa Monica, he was back in town. He said, "Well, he used to stay in this funky, cool hotel out by the beach," and said, "Well, as you may have anticipated, we're having a bit of difficulty getting the visas in place, being a war going on and all. So idle hand to the devil's workshop. Zenith Pictures has, from the success of Sid and Nancy, given me $1 million to shoot a movie on the old Sergio Leone sets in Almeria, Spain. And all the musicians who provided music for the film Sid and Nancy would like to try their hand at acting. And they quite like your performance, and I think they'll be looking to you for some acting advice." And I was like, and then he said, "So Joe's going to do this?" And the Pogues? And Elvis Costello, then for a little while, Declan McManus. I said, "Yeah, of course. I'm in." And then it was like, Alex was just like a house on fire, a madman over there in Almeria. And fuck it, it's a B movie, let's go. telling Pogues who were laboring under the weight of sombreros, bless Shane still. We lost him only last year, and imagined he would last so long. Brilliant, genius, self-destructive Pogue that he was. And he and Spider were like tilting into these huge sombreros. And every time they did their little laugh, and then they would just fall out of frame this way. No. Squint like Clint Eastwood and then exit forward past camera. Not falling out. And it was crazy. It was crazy, mad experience that I wouldn't change a minute of for anything. But there were times that I felt like, especially when we were in Nicaragua and the war was going on, and he started to, just, there was a little too much. There was a perfect script that needed to be shot as it was, and I think that hurt its impact on some level, although it did make it into the Criterion Collection. So who am I to judge? And I, got to hang out in Nicaragua with Joe Strummer for months. Got to see the other side of it, and I had a wise man tell me before I went down. He goes, because I was like, everybody was so Viva la Revolucion and like Reagan, and the Contra War is so evil, and it was very complicated, though. The Sandinistas were no angels, and I spoke enough Spanish to hear their side of it. Somebody said, "Well, it sounds like you already know what you're going to find before you get down there, so why bother going?" And then, well, what if you were neutral? You speak a bit of Spanish. Why don't you just see what you can learn by actually being there, rather than deciding ahead of time what's there? And that blew my mind. Everybody thought I was the CIA spy because of that. I knew there had to be one on the film. Maybe I won't.
So before we move on, I did say there was two films I wanted to ask about, just ever so quickly. When I was young, I had a movie we taped off the TV, and I absolutely fucking adored it, from 1996, called Apollo 11, where you played Buzz Aldrin. I adored this film. Like,
Oh, I love working on it, and Buzz Aldrin, getting to play Buzz Aldrin, and Jeffrey Nordling. We just the guy that directed it was so good, and Buzz was the actual technical advisor on the film, and it was his life story in a lot of ways, and it was an extraordinary experience. And then because of the whole Earth to the Moon thing. After doing Apollo 13, maybe they thought Apollo, he's done an Apollo movie. He could actually play. And I had almost been in the right stuff. I'd almost gotten to play Alan Shepard. Between me, I was too young, but so I had come close to an astronaut somehow. I was somehow the academic and athletic side of me was just all that's what all those guys. And so yeah. Tom and Hanks and Steven Spielberg sort of wanted to make sure they didn't. I don't know to what extent it was the Family Channel. How did you even see it? But I think
genuinely don't remember.
The Moon came along, they were going, "No, we'll be telling this story, and we're going to use Bryan Cranston instead of you." No, but I love Bryan Cranston, and I love Tom and Stephen as well. So there's no hard feelings about any of it. But nobody got to see the movie. That's the only thing I'm so touched and delighted.
I absolutely. I just remember having it taped off the TV when I was a kid. I don't remember anything other than that, and I just remember absolutely loving that film. And everyone going like, Apollo 13 is like, yeah, but have you seen Apollo 11? Because it's fucking great.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that was a trip, and Jeffrey Northern played Neil Armstrong. We weren't big stars; we were just working actors that were right for the parts, and it was a smaller budget. Obviously, it wasn't grandiose. I remember one time doing my moonwalk, and very authentic, real deal period astronaut outfits, and it was a stage that they had made of the moon. We didn't get to do the vomit comment that Bill Paxton was a good friend of mine, always told me the gory details. That's what they called it when they did for Apollo 13, when they're up, and the weightlessness was created by just going up above into space far enough to lose gravity, and then they'd shoot for those sequences, and invariably, even though they're all drugged up on Dramamine, the vomit comment was the. So we didn't have the money for that, but we did have a big stage with a rounded pothole surface that looked like the moon when they lit it, right? And I have invisible cables lifting me to make it look like I was weightless. It was like theater, and in that respect, and it was really cool, except for when my oxygen hose slipped down from my helmet, and I lost oxygen mid slip, and all of a sudden passed out, like, and then had to run in and like doctor on staff fortunately had an oxygen balloon. It's scarcely one of my closest brushes with death, real death, I mean.
Well, speaking of on-screen death, you were part of one of the most iconic death scenes in cinema history, in my opinion, in Terminator 2 as Todd, the very unfortunate foster father of John Connor. The special effects is incredible, especially for like 1991. What was that like to be part of?
Incredible. Like I said, I'd always had an affinity for the special effects makeup people, and Stan Winston was the top of the top. And just getting to go to that studio out in North Hollywood and seeing that they had to do impressions and cast the back of my head because they were going to be making a retractable blade that would swing that way while looking like it's coming out that way, so that it's. But they gave me a blade, a long blade, to practice sword swallowing for 3 weeks because they had to have it far enough down my throat that it looked like it was coming out the back of my head when they retracted.
What the fuck?
I'm son of a bitch that gags on a damn toothbrush. Just, word of the wise, will get your hopes up. Yeah, so that was rough. And then Stan, brilliant man that he was, had left one calculation out. They had done the whole thing as though I were standing on a plane with the kitchen cabinet, forgetting that I had to do a back bend over the kitchen counter that precedes the kitchen cabinet. So I had, in order to be pinned to the cabinet, I had to do a back bend, and it looked physically impossible. Like right at the beginning, and Cameron turned to Stan and went, "Thanks, Dan. There goes $250,000. That way." And I watched his world crush. And I said, "Hey, Jim, I mean, I can try it. I can try it. It's not going to be pretty." And then they, like, because they had in the original one, they had a tube of milk and a tube of blood that went down the back side of the blade that split at the back so that it wouldn't come out pink, so that it would be blood and milk. As I'm, pinned against the cover for just a minute before slopping down to the ground. And that was so gross, and people got so grossed out that they said, "Well, get rid of those tubes." And thank you. After the first one, and I didn't have to gag on that again. But yeah, it was a combination of plastic, real tricks and CGI at its inception. They basically had dots of actual things that they could use as their points of reference to then flow in between. And Jeanette, who's going to be at the Manchester Comic-Con, along with our child Edward Furlong, John, and Janelle and Todd are going to get back together for the first time in a very long time.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited as hell. Because you work together on something. I think we all knew that this is, as long as we live, this thing was going to be around and be a part of film history. There was so much intelligence and coolness going on at that time with Jim, well, his brain. Yeah, the puppeteers of Stan's school had made one arm with freckles and everything morphing into the blade that went through my head. That behind Jeanette, an under frame, these guys were holding these poles that would pull it out, and her arm was outside of her dress, and so it's of her, like, just her blouse, and the puppet arm is going through the arm sleeve. And so it's that kind of like practical trick. And then the thing that's fit like a glove, like just like a skin against the back of my head with the retractable blade attachment. There's a puppeteer down below holding the pulley that's going to make the at the same time. But there were hours where I'm doing a back bend, hours and hours, until all hours of the morning, where I had to match. They had to match the glint with the blade in the back and the blade. And getting close, Jim. We have to photograph the whole room so we can put that reflection onto it. Nobody can move. You cannot move. And when they take the blade out, I fall on the ground. He goes, "If you move this much while you're like, if you move this much, you'll fuck the whole thing up."
Talk about pressure.
Okay, got you. So it's frozen. And literally, there was 4 o'clock in the morning. It was winter in LA, and it does get cold at night there, especially when the sliding glass door in this real house with real kitchen cabinets you can't get out of the way. You have to do a back bend over and slump down now. The cables for the camera and the sound and everything are holding the sliding glass doors that are right next to the cabinet where I've fallen. And icy winds coming in, and Jim personally keeps swirling and adding more blood and milk in a swirl in a little puddle next to me because it kept being absorbed into my jeans. Crying my ass with all this milk and blood. That was a strange experience for me. I'll tell you what, that's not a typical day for me. I remember Jim sent me a bottle of Cristal champagne. My girlfriend and I went out to a fancy restaurant and had somewhere down the line, and that was just, to me, that was enough that he acknowledged what torture I put myself through.
That's awesome.
He amazed how much people don't make those gestures. And so it's nice when they do. I have a great deal of respect for Jen for this, especially that period.
So I want to move on to my favorite TV show that has ever existed in the history of ever, which is 24. So obviously,
But I introduced you to Sarah before she screamed out of the room.
Yes. So this TV show is so iconic for me in the sense that my whole family, I've got quite a big family, we'd all get together on a Sunday night on BBC Two in Britain at 9 p.m. To sit and watch. And obviously you played George Mason for the first two series. Like, how was that sold to you? Because obviously that's become an iconic TV show now. I mean, they're even talking about making a movie. I just saw that recently in the past couple of days. So yeah, like obviously you met Sarah. How did you get involved? Like, can we talk all about 24 now?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, when I said ideally it would be fun to talk about things that I think people would care about at the Comic-Con. I think T2 is definitely in there, and 24, I understand, is part of their promotion because it did affect a certain zeitgeist in Great Britain. It was Sarah and I were invited to come and present at the British Comedy Awards during that because they could fly us like a tour, but we were each other's other. So it was a good economic move on their part. One hotel room.
Yeah.
And so we loved it. We went to London, Paris, and Japan. Japan is like another just crazy how it just fit the zeitgeist of Japanese culture, just like it did Britain. I'm not sure exactly why, but it really it did. And originally, I just had done a movie called Time Code with Mike Figgis, who I also another genius Brit, sometimes difficult genius that I got to work with 4 times. Had just done Time Code, and that had the 4 screen images going on. And then Stephen Hopkins, who directed the pilot of 24, liked that, had seen that. I think there was maybe that sort of helped put me in their minds because they offered me this part. It was originally just a guest star, and I wasn't even sure because it was a guest star on a pilot. I was up for a lot of pilots, and I was more or less still trying to dodge TV at the time and stick with movies, so that was my focus. And I thought I was playing a different part. I thought, I'm playing that guy. Okay. So it's really kind of spur of the moment with George Mason and the scenes and working on it and thinking, for me, the first thing I do is like, I've got an attaché case. I've got to pull out all these documents and I've got to, so go to the props department, get the attaché case, get me the documents, and I'll just 1,000 times over and over practice, throwing it on the table, opening it up, taking it out, scattering it, just so it's in my body and it looks as though I've been doing this for years. And so that's really what my attention was. And there was something in the writing, I just sort of saw a little inclination. I just leaned into the ironic sort of maybe the cynicism that comes with doing a job like that after a period of time, a little bit of gallows humor, bone dry wit and irony that I was able to improvise a little into it, and they loved that, and so they immediately began writing for that when they did pick up the show. But Sarah and I met the first day of filming, and basically we hit it off, and here we are 23 years later with 2 little 24 spin-offs, 14 and 17 years old here and there.
That's
Yeah, so it was an incredible experience for us, as well as the fact that the rather grim fact that 9/11 happened after I drove across country, not thinking the thing was going to get picked up, but Sarah and I met, kind of gotten together. She'd come out to Vancouver, had a job up there, and we'd seen each other, and she was going to do a film for a couple of weeks in Philadelphia, and I thought, a couple of weeks? I could just be driving across the country in a couple of weeks. I've never done that. I always wanted to, and I showed up in New York. I don't think she recognized me right away because I had some strange facial hair. She kind of walked past me and goes, "Hey, aren't you?" I had 2 tickets for Portugal. Everybody's going to Portugal now. I was ahead of the curve. And so we had a little honeymoon, like right right upon meeting, and it was I stayed in her apartment in New York. She invited me to stay there, and as it turned out, I was able to get out to see my parents a lot. It was the last year of my father's life, so I got to see him a lot, and all that. I'm feeling emotional, I think, because I'm so like sore, making me raw. Thank you, Pop.
Hero. Absolute hero.
The other thing I'll say about that, because I'd reached a certain age and I hadn't gotten married, and I thought I was a little haunted by the fact that I just seemed like I could never quite. I always had a foot out the door. I was always moving on. I was always doing films on location, and I kind of put it out there. I was ready to meet my match and to meet someone at eye level. And Sarah and I met in the makeup trailer at eye level, and it was like blink. And then we got together very, very quickly because we didn't have time or the opportunity to be coy with one another. And so this was it. It's going to happen. Lady Games. And then I was able to bring her out. My father, it's like he never rushed me. Like, my mother was older when she had me too and stuff. And so there was a sense, well, if a woman could, she was 42 when she had me. And back in the dark ages. And so I thought if a gal could wait that long, well, a feller could wait even longer theoretically. And I had, and somehow all the gals that I brought around, I know gals has been erased. It's guys and gals. I don't know why. I think it's been canceled, that word. They don't like it. I won't keep using it. I promise, ladies. Gal. Ow. Okay. Good. Wonderful young women when I was young, and wonderful women as I got older. Had come out to visit my parents to meet them, and I remember up to a certain age, my father was like, "Well, what should hurry?" Because there was pressure to get married early on in a lot of relationships because it's time clock and all the rest of it, and I'll never forget my Sarah, my mother, got into a kind of like a really good debate as they were clearing the plates and went off talking about whether or not mathematics was inherent or whether it was cultural or whatever. And 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 my father just reached out. I am gonna freaking cry. And put his hand on top of mine. He went, perfect, just perfect.
Oh, that's sweet. That's amazing.
Again, it's not like I needed his affirmation, but it was awesome to have it in the last year of his life.
Yeah.
And he didn't make it to the wedding, but we were married within a year, I think, pretty much a year from that summer. And he was there rooting for us. And here we are.
That's beautiful.
That's amazing. That is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Cry, baby. See you real. No, we didn't spray any, whatever in my eyes.
It's tree dust, I promise.
You're pulling out there.
But I mean, because obviously that show ran on for 9 seasons. I mean, were you gutted to be killed off in season 2? Because again, that scene in the plane with the nuclear bomb was like, I think, made the world weep.
Again, here's the thing. I remember, I was just a recurring character in the first season. Sarah was killing it from day one. And at the end of the season, they have her revealed instead of me. It was sort of thought that I'd be the shitheel. And then they made it her, which is a great twist. And I started to say 9/11 happened. They had to do a lot of thinking on their feet because it was just freaky parallels what actually happened in terms of terrorism and at that time counterterrorism and so we got the liberty of really getting to rework things, and sometimes they had to change things so quickly they didn't have the time to finesse the dialogue, and so a lot of that we were allowed to massage into place on the day, and part of added to its vitality. An incredible Rodney Chambers, the cinematographer, that set up the cameras in such amazing ways. One way back there, the zooming in, you're aware of, and then Guy and John, these two, the handheld camera. John pulled focus for Guy's massive guy worked before. and he could anticipate in these amazing scenes. He knew before, who was going to have a response and it was just we were all like a brain together in that thing. And it was the popularity of it it was something new that you had to be in, that it was real time. And the nature of syndication, which is where shows make their real money because they're not having to pay for the production anymore, but they're getting their advertising revenue. So shows were all based on like, how's that going to play in reruns, and people wouldn't be able to see it in chronological sequence. So there was a great, we didn't think it was even going to get picked up, but when it did, it was just like, and then 9/11 and just like group hive brain. And then when Sarah ended up being the mole and the summer came, we didn't know what was going to happen if the show, I think it had been picked up. And I remember Joel Chernow, the creator of the show, called me. We'd worked on a couple of things together before. And in that first season, I remember saying to him, like, do I have to be such a gratuitous asshole? I mean, I'll be an asshole. Do I have to get out my way to be a twat? Like, just for the sake of? And he said, we have one golden rule on this show: never bore. All right. I think we can do that without being like, hey, look at me. Am I a dick or what? And so we had a good sort of tension between us of how to keep it real and how to keep it, to be that element in the moving of the show. And then he gives me a call because he knew I was getting a little tired of always having the same, like, didn't I in like 3 or 4 other episodes tell Jack, no, there's no way. Well, maybe. Okay, but this is the last time.
Yeah.
I said, you're not gonna make me do that again. All right, I'll make it work. But he gives me a call at home and he goes, look, you don't want to commit to a TV series, but he's, hey, start. No, not gonna fly. I am doing a podcast. Okay, come on in. Come in through this window. Stop barking. The neighbors don't like it anyway. I don't know how loud that is for you, but it sounds pretty loud. So anyway, he said, what if we have you inhale airborne plutonium on the first or second episode and you only have 24 hours to live? So you don't have to commit to anything more than a year, but you become a series regular for 1 year. And you're dead at the end of the day. And I said, that's incredible. He says, yeah, and I think that we have the opportunity to find a little redemption in some other colors. The guy trying to make up for a life misspent. I said, I am so in for that, as well as the fact that we hadn't yet revealed, I don't think it was until the second season that we revealed that we came back from the break, I remember, and Carlos and I were talking, Carlos Bernard.
Yeah.
Going, so what did you do over the summer? Oh, that was between the pilot and when the show first got picked up. And funny story. And I said, well, I traveled across country and I went to Portugal. Said, oh my God, have you talked to Sarah? You've got to talk to her. She traveled across country and she went to Portugal too. Because we were supposed to
yeah.
a lot of professions don't let you do that. And so, but I respected her and everything. Kept it pretty low key, and then we revealed it, and that was cool. It felt like we're sort of like a family, and then I got to call my makeup artist friends when I knew that I was going to do the show for the second season. I was going to get radiation poisoning, and I studied all the medical books of how that would manifest, what the lesions would look like. This is what I really like. And I try to pace it because I had these incredible graphic images that say how far we're going to go and like at what point does the year start to fall off. And I thought I'd go and check in, and Howard Gordon was in the front office. And I said, Howard, do do we know exactly when, like, I meet my maker in this? Like, what episode? We were around episode 13 at the time. And he goes, I, I think that's a Joel question. And that was Howard didn't have that nervous energy about him at all. He's just so awesome and cool. And I sort of totter in, and Joel leaning back in his chair with his arm behind his head. And he goes, 15, but you're going to love it. Episode 15, this is 13. I'm like, two more. I was going to have 24 hours to live. I thought you didn't want to do TV. We were just like fucking with each other. And he said, look, the bomb is killing us. It's just killing us. And so it's two birds, one stone. And it's going to be freaking awesome. And Bob and I have written what I think is one of the best episodes of television. And I said, oh, okay, well, we'll take a look. And Ian McNeice is an actor. I'm trying to think. Ian Taunton, I guess, is the director's name that did that episode. And all the directors they had on that show were so great. Oh my God. And it was just great storytelling. I feel obviously cosmically moved by it, having met my wife, and my kids wouldn't be here without it. But just because of the nature of that show and how groundbreaking it was and cool it was to be a part of.
No, absolutely. I think it pioneered for all how TV works this day and age today, personally. But staying in that theme, I think the other thing that everybody would love to talk about and would love to know about for the Manchester Comic Con is The Walking Dead.
Yeah. It does tend to come up. It does come up in conversation.
Yeah, I bet it does. Funny that. And obviously your role as Gregory, the original runner of Hilltop. And obviously met your maker again in quite a brutal way, might I add.
The hanging thing was a lure from the start because I heard about it from the graphic novel that's how the guy would meet us. And I thought that's going to be good on the death reel. I don't believe I've ever seen you swinging from a rope, Sean Bean. Yeah, got that bitch.
They obviously
that was a brutal night of filming. But that was something that, and they had to, for various reasons, get to it a little bit sooner. It seemed abrupt to me because they were going to go further with the character before getting to it. But that's just the nature of it. There's so many moving pieces in these shows that sometimes, it just got to kill you. It's your time to die. And I've been my living dying, so I'm at peace with it. But the showrunner, like my agents wanted me to go and audition for this part, and I didn't. They weren't going to let me look at the sides, and I never watched the show. I didn't know what the big deal was, and I don't know what I'm signing off to. This isn't even the character that I'm reading these pages, and why am I chasing this? No, if they want to offer it to me, I can talk to them. I've been getting offers since Miami Vice. So like this is something very respectable that's been lost in this day and age with all the obsession with they got to hear their words, self-tape business that I have my, auditioning at a certain point, it felt like the law of diminishing returns because they know what you've done, what you can do, and they're just a lot of times they're just looking for backup, a way to stall while they're trying to get a bigger name in place. And you're their insurance policy, and it takes 12 hours to prepare for every audition if you're going to do what you want to put your name on. A lot of times it's people that haven't done maybe as many or any of the things I've done. And so not out of arrogance either, it's just out of just practicality. It didn't seem like it was already, it was, no, what's the show? I still like movies. Uh-huh. What's the character? He's a douchebag. He's a big asshole. Okay, well, I have daughters now, and at some point I want them flipping through the channels when I'm gone and thinking that, well, the daddy was something other than a shitheel every freaking time. And so as soon as I got home, Scott, the showrunner, already called me and said, saying, look, we think it'd be great for you. And I, well, who is this guy? And he keeps describing, oh, wow, he's an asshole. And why would I want to do this? He goes, because it's going to be funny. I was a comedy writer before, and it's not going to be obvious funny. It's going to be what I love about your work, as he says, that you can make things funny without losing the character or the sense of reality. It's just something that's incidental, as humor is in life. I think as actors, we want to take everything very seriously. Gary Oldman had a great thing. I've used it for years because he would do this. Sometimes because Chloe was taking a long time to get into the character. Sometimes, he called it methadone acting. And he goes, oh no, come on, let's go. My dog is dead. um, I prescribed to something in the middle of this too, but I appreciate it, Paul. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if I wanted to play another guy like that, but he lured me with, and he said, "Look, I'm a pop culture junkie. For some reason, I just really want to see." He goes, "Have you ever seen Stephen Ogg's show, where he played Trevor, Grand Theft Auto?"
Yes.
And so that was part of this pitch. He goes, "Is this guy Stephen Ogg?" And I just have an obsessive pop culture bug in my brain. I want to see George Mason from 24 facing off with Trevor from Grand Theft Auto. And Sarah just entered frame like a ghost.
She did, yeah.
I've seen her a couple times. She turns up, smiles, and then walks off again. It's great.
Going on. I never shut up.
The boys are having fun. I'll leave them.
Yeah. I'm just gonna wrap it up on it.
Oh, you wrapping up? Okay, dinner's
I've
ready.
been talking glowingly about it, darling.
Oh, well, go on then. The dinner is ready when you're ready.
Brilliant. Did I mention? Oh, it is. Thanks. I'll be there. Yeah. The humor was so fun, and the chemistry between Stephen Ogg and myself, just it was super fun, and they even made up a camera shot that they called the Xandog, because we would be different in every take, and we're just playing off each other because we would really memorize because they really wanted it word perfect on that show, so we would just hang out. We were hitting it off and just hang out and run lines, and then be able to do it differently in every take. And they realized they couldn't use a take of mine from one take and a take of his from another because they wouldn't fit. So they would have the two long angle lenses going at the same time. And it, to me, the opportunity to really fly and just get into a character, and I found him extremely funny, and he was finding me very funny. And I think by playing it dead real as these two weirdos, it was had nothing but, and the show is, talk about a zeitgeist phenomenon. I think as the post-apocalyptic dystopian world approaches air nearer, people find themselves relating to the show.
Was there ever a moment when you were like, zombies? Oh, wait, hang on a minute. This is not real.
Which?
The Walking Dead, like, obviously, because it's a post-apocalyptic thing. So, like, I don't know if there'd be like a split moment where people would walk in, you'd be like, oh, fuck. Oh, no, wait, it's not real.
Because I was the kid that was like, my father give me this insane makeup kit from when I was 11. I was always making wounds and things that I terrified my mother with. And so I was always, and Greg was known as a great special effects makeup guy. And he was one of the executive producers on it. And so I knew his work, and I was just, as soon as I was there, I was in the trailer seeing what they were doing, how they were applying it. So not so much, but as Gregory, I was terrified.
Yes, you were.
Absolutely.
He didn't have those skills. I mean, that's the thing. You can be a bad guy, but the audiences on a certain level will. I remember there was like an old, when I was first starting out, you'd come across these actors that had been in a lot of cowboy movies, and they'd say things like, never let them make you beg for your life. Kill your career. And then the scene with Gregory, they'd go, no. They'd done enough at that point. I go, well, I'm good. But yeah, I've got 5 movies coming out, so it hasn't killed the career.
Definitely.
Wow.
And I've opted, our moving to Maine had a lot to do with not wanting to be held on location. Like I did this show Salem and Shreveport, and the same thing with The Walking Dead, where they'd say, "Well, we might need you for B camera. We want to just keep you around," and so you're missing important chunks of their childhood, and I just couldn't abide that. I just wanted to be here. So we've been working arduously to bring competitive tax incentives for the state of Maine, for film to Maine, and there's a nice groundswell in that direction. We've done several movies here that people find out we're here and we end up playing their parents or whatever. But been in support of these films and these film festivals here in Maine. And yeah, I got a couple of cool things coming out. We'll talk about that maybe down the line.
Sounds good.
We'll stay with the pop culture highlights for now. And
Absolutely. Before we do start wrapping this up, there is one little thing I wanted to ask about, because probably should have mentioned this at the start because it's early in your career. Did I see you were in the music video for "I'd Lie for You and That's the Truth" by Meatloaf, or was that the internet spreading rumors?
Meatloaf was a very just a wonderful guy, and he was very generous, and they gave him a budget to make these things, and so Brett Cullen and him were really good friends. Brett and I had done a politics. We'd known each other forever. We were similar on the west side and me on the east side. We would throw events and invite each other to each other's cool gatherings. And Meatloaf and I had done the Gun and Bedley's Handbag together and totally hit it off. And so he said, "Brett, what about Xander? Can he play the German guy?" "Yeah, play some Germans." And World War II, evil, yeah. Xander, that's him. He's evil. About that. And so, yeah, we just had a blast doing it. And there was a terrible accident on the thing. That's the only thing it took that made it rough. But otherwise, it was one of those. I did a Steve Earle video once, and I did a few things just where you get to work with friends behind the scenes and sort of do a little cameo. People recognize you. If they don't, you're getting to hang out with. I've always sort of hang out with musicians and painters and writers more than I do actors, so that's been my thing.
Incredible. Mr. Stevens, any more questions for our incredible guest?
Xander, before we let you go out of here, I mean, when you first started this journey of acting, theatre, doing makeup and that sort of thing, did you ever think that this is where you would be today?
But then our beginnings never know our ends, do they? T.S. Eliot. Yeah, somehow, sort of hippie-ish that this concept is. I was very drawn to Zen Buddhism when I was in high school, and accepting that life is not but constant change and contradiction, and that the more you try to pin it down, the more you're going to escape or miss the essence of life, which is flow. And I didn't feel particularly constrained by. I just felt like I was going to do okay. I always had jobs, baled hay when I was young, and I didn't mind hard work. I loved hard work, so whatever I had to do to get there, and I really enjoyed the sort of figuring out how to get in, how to sneak in through the back window and pry that door open and get over here and do things that other people weren't doing. And I think as well, watching in the early 60s, all these incredible movies were made. My father couldn't get into the city to see them because we were living in the country in New Jersey. And then in the 70s on PBS, they were playing in rerun, always late at night on Channel 13 PBS. And just my mother was like, "Oh my God, I can't start a movie." She'd go upstairs and I'd hear her going up. And I kind of creeped in. And I got like a cinema, like it was all Kurosawa, Truffaut, Bergman, Fellini, and then we would watch Bogart movies and stuff. And a lot of great actors that would have an ensemble of actors. That was something that I think we're all trying to like. We got cool fathers. We want to be impressed with this, and so that the idea of as I had done on stage and in repertory theater, convincingly transformed from that dog. The neighbor, they're down the way. Dog's bark. I'm particularly sensitive about that now. Yeah, so I think there has to be a kind of. I remember when I would go to auditions early on, I had like a thing that just how to offset the stink of the animal stink of desperation. Because if you're really considering how unlikely it is you're going to get any work, not to mention job after job, that it'll get in your head. And so I would practice this thing that I called calculated nonchalance, not to be arrogant or above it or uninterested, but just that, they've got a problem to solve here. They need to find somebody to do this, and let's make life easy. Let's do it. So just sort of seeing people in the room as equals and collaborators, being open and really listening. Whatever you might have 3 or 4 or 5 rabbits you're ready to pull out of that hat. But if you really present in the moment and you really listen to what they're looking for from the character, and then you have a moment to discuss it, that's always my favorite. Like a lot of things that just got offered. A lot of British directors would do that. I worked with a lot of British directors over the years in television and film, and they really they weren't afraid to use their imagination, and they enjoyed the communication. Like, oh, this guy gets it. This guy gets this character, and so yeah, just not being too intimidated by knowing that I had every like a quiver full of arrows of different accents. Anything I was physically remotely right for, I could do. Any American regional accent, any Russian, German, British Isles, and being prepared to do it on short notice. Just again, just anything to offset the odds that are stacked against you. Somehow I kept hitting the one-armed bandit in the corner. You can't bank on it, but it's not a lot of cash. It's not like the big, roulette table or anything, but then there you are all of a sudden fucking old. Don't let it happen, kids. Just don't let it happen. That's what I pictured. I think that's the only thing I didn't picture. I pictured success. and actually being able to pull off the hat trick of flying under the radar somehow. Because I always wanted to be the one observing people rather than the one people observed on a certain level. Never wanted to lose to any great extent, my anonymity and the freedom to have conversations with friends in public without having privacy invaded. People, I hate to interrupt. Go white people. Nobody knows who the fuck you are.
Xander, Xander, where can people find you out there in the world? Plug social medias, websites, wherever it may be.
Xander Original on Instagram, and I resented when they changed Twitter to X because that's my initial. I feel strongly about that. There's a lot of toxic stuff going on there, so I just sort of segued into Threads, which is a little soft. And I haven't really found my way into that, but I do enjoy exchanging with people like-minded creatives, and I do have a lot of fans/friends out there, and I enjoy that part of it. That's why I'm really looking forward to being in Manchester. I don't do a lot of these convention things, so it'll be really fun to meet fans that are cool and British. In America, then I got a little scared off of some of the people. Not you. None of you are watching this.
It's going to be an absolute pleasure to have you over here, Xander.
Absolutely.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. And a friend of mine from that era when I was traveling that year in 1983 all over England, friend's going to pick me up, and we're going to make our way to other friends in different places we're going to stay, so that yeah, have a little bit of a trip after the con and see a lot of friends. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Yeah. Can't wait. Well, we'll see you guys one of these days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Xander, thank you so much for taking the time out. It means the absolute world. It really does.
Yeah, well, really a pleasure. And I'm glad we didn't have any technical glitches.
No.
It was absolutely beautiful. Xander, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. It's been graciously appreciated. Have an amazing time over here. Enjoy Manchester and seeing with your friends and whatnot. And hopefully we'll catch up soon.
And enjoy your dinner.
Pleasure. Take care, you guys. Good luck with everything.
Thanks, Xander.
Thank you so much.
Stay with it, as I really believe this little bit of magic that as you think and as you feel, you're creating more of that. So you got to avoid and be on the lookout for doubt and things. Then that's just like static. It's not a clear signal. And the universe doesn't know what to do with doubt. But if you just keep picture what it is you want to do, knowing that you've worked hard and are prepared to do it well, see it as an inevitability, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Report back.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Xander. Take it easy, my friend.
Thank
See you
so
soon.
much. See you soon.
Bye bye.